Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Punaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Together we chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 13, verses 1 to 10.
Arjuna uvacha prakritim purusham chaiva kshetram kshetrajñameva cha etadveditumicchami jnanam jneyam cha keshava Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam shariram kaunteya kshetramityabhidhiyate etadyo vetti tam prahuhu kshetrajña iti tadvidaha kshetrajñam chapi mam vidhi sarvakshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajñayor jnanam yattajnanam matam mama tatshetram yaccha yadrikcha yadvikari yatascha yat sacha yo yat prabhavascha tatsamasena me shrinu ऋषिभिर्बहुधा गीतम् छन्दोभिर्विविधैः पृथक् ब्रह्मसूत्रपदैश्चैव हेतुमद्भिर्विनिश्चितैः महाभूतान्यहङ्कारः बुद्धिरव्यक्तमेव च इन्द्रियाणि दशैकं च पञ्चचेन्द्रियगोचराः इच्छा द्वेषः सुखं दुःखं सङ्घातश्चेतना धृतिः एतत् क्षेत्रं समासेन सविकारमुदाहृतम् अमानित्वमदम्भित्वम् अहिंसा क्षान्तिरार्जवम् आचार्योपासनं शौचं स्थैर्यमात्मविनिग्रहः इन्द्रियार्थेषु वैराग्यम् अनहङ्कार एव च जन्म मृत्युजरा व्याधिः दुःखदोषानुदर्शनम् असक्तिरनभिष्वङ्गः पुत्रदारगृहादिषु नित्यं च समचित्तत्वम् इष्टानिष्टोपपत्तिषु
Is the sound clear?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. So, Prakash, you may want to check from your side. We are studying the 13th chapter. A chapter always interesting to those who seek knowledge, who are the intellectual type. And here Arjuna begins with asking all these questions. What is Prakriti? What is Purusha? What is Kshetra? What is Kshetrajna? And the Lord answers these questions. Now you may think, तो मैं क्या करूं? Let anything be Prakriti and let anything be Purusha. What am I supposed to do with it? This is the difference between liberal education and servile education. Suppose you went to a seminar on how to make money or how to have good relationships. They will give you direct tips. Do this, do that. They will say, okay, so you are fighting with your wife, so learn to say sorry, for instance, whatever. They'll give you some direct tips. This kind of education is a servile education where it is just tell me what I need to do and then what do I get out of it? It's just about that much. But higher levels of knowledge don't function like that. When you go to fields like mathematics or physics and things like that, you don't ask these questions. You don't ask these questions, so then is that knowledge futile and useless? All this great scientific development that we have now with us has come because of those basic principles. So, if you want to get your life as developed as science has developed the world, we need to go back to those first principles to understand what is the base of it all. And very fortunately for us, somebody has discovered it all and told us, and we just have to understand what they're saying. Now, what happens when you study like this is you may not know what is the technique of something in particular, but what you do know is how the whole operates. And what does that do? It develops discrimination. That discrimination is like getting a torch. Wherever you shine that torch, it will all become clear. So all the students who come to Vedanta class, they are studying Prakriti and Purusha. But what will happen as a consequence of it is their studies, whatever they are studying, will suddenly become more and more clear. So what we have to develop as a method of education, as studying this subject, is that capacity of discrimination, the intellect. And once you have this amazing tool, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't matter. You will make a success out of it. So that's why we're going to study right from the basics. What is Prakriti and what is Purusha? And it's not that complicated, luckily for us. If you go to physics and all, it gets quite complicated. You go to higher mathematics, quite complicated. But Vedanta, very simple. You all remember the most basic, the most fundamental principle, which we studied last time. Who remembers?
Spirit plus matter equals individual.
Spirit plus matter equals the individual. What can be more easy? What can be more simple? Spirit plus matter is equal to the individual. What is this? Who is the individual?
Deepraj is the individual.
Very good. Deepraj is the individual. What is spirit?
The self.
Mm-hmm.
I.
Deepraj is the individual. Deepraj is the combination of Prakriti and matter. But what am I? I am the self. I is always the self. I is not Deepraj. Deepraj is the combination of I plus matter. Deepraj is equal to Jiva. Yes, Mahesh, Deepraj is equal to Jiva. But don't say Jiva and all. That's how we make it all very theoretical. It's almost like it's got nothing to do with me. This whole knowledge has got to do with me. It's about my life and what I'm doing with it. So we say Jiva and all this is correct. It's not incorrect. But you have to say, I am the self. Mahesh is a combination of I plus matter. That's when it starts occurring to our minds that this has got something to do with me. It's not what is Purusha, what is Prakriti, not something there. Something about me. Who am I? To understand who I am, I will first have to understand,
Who I'm not.
okay, who I am not. Or the other way of putting it, correct, you're right. Or the other way of putting it is, what is the Prakriti? What aspect of me is the Prakriti? And once I'm able to understand this is Prakriti, anything other than this will become I. Now I know my individuality. I know Deepraj, or I know Mahesh, the individual. Now, in this, I have to learn to segregate these two things. When I segregate them, I will understand who I am. So, how do I begin? What is my first step? What happened? What is my first step? Anyone other than Deepraj?
What is Prakriti? To understand
What I'm not. What I'm not.
Understanding Prakriti.
Matter, okay.
So he's going to now explain Prakriti. Because understanding self is difficult. Now, any knowledge has to begin with the easy part. So he can't tell you what is the self because that is incomprehensible. So he begins by telling us what is Prakriti. So now he'll first tell us Prakriti. What is Prakriti? Sorry, he's talking about Kshetra and Kshetragnya. So Kshetra plus Kshetragnya is equal to the individual. Yes. Komal, can you tell me who is the individual?
Kshetra plus Kshetragnya, Prakriti plus Purusha,
Yeah.
matter
Who
plus
is the
spirit.
Okay. But who is the individual?
Any living being who has matter and spirit.
Every living being has matter and spirit. Pravesh, who is the individual?
Pravesh.
Pravesh, very good. Pravesh is the individual. Pravesh is made up of Kshetra, the matter, and Kshetragnya, that which knows the matter. Nya is a Sanskrit suffix which indicates knowledge of. So, Tantragnya, Kshetragnya, what else? Which other words are there? Anyone?
Shastragnya, scientist.
Shastragnya, very good. Shastragnya, the knower of the Shastra. Very good, Elsie. When did you start becoming such a scholar in Sanskrit? Very good. So, when you add the suffix nya, you mean knowledge of. So, who is the Kshetragnya, the knower of the Kshetra? It is the self. Right? We did all the synonyms last time, right? Anyone new this time? Mau Banerjee, are you new?
Yes, I just joined today.
Okay. Is it clear to you, Mau?
Yes, it's clear.
If something
I'm trying to cope.
Okay, if something's not clear, just ask.
Sure,
Okay.
I'll do that. Yes,
So what we did last time was the basic, most fundamental concept in Vedanta, which is spirit plus matter is equal to the individual. The individual is Mau. Mau is the individual. Mau is made up of spirit plus matter. The I in Mau, who is the real I? That is the self, the spirit. Everything else is the Kshetra, the matter, the Prakriti. Okay, so this is the basic which everybody should know before we start this chapter. Otherwise, there will be all hell breaking loose after some time. So this much has to be clear. Clear, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Now, he starts with telling us what is Kshetra. What is the field? The field is this body. Idam shariram kaunteya. This shariram, this sharir. Idam shariram kaunteya. Kshetram iti abhidiyate. Is called iti is when you use iti in Sanskrit, it's like having quotation marks. So there's no, as you know, there's no punctuation like quotation marks and all. So the word iti is used. So Kshetram abhidhiyate. Kshetram abhidhiyate is called the Kshetram. Etadyo veti, he who knows this, tam prahuhu, they call Kshetrakni. It's a very, very interesting sort of usage of language itself. Because at its most fundamental level, or just like on a superficial level, it is clearly incorrect. Right? He says, what is the Kshetra? This body is the Kshetra. What is the Kshetragnya? He who knows the body is the Kshetragnya. Do you people know your body or not? We all know, right? Here's the body. What is the difficulty in that? So have we become Kshetragnya? Far from it. Very far from it. So what does this thing mean? What it means is the mind is capable of being aware of the body. Right? The mind awares the body. But who awares the mind? The intellect awares the mind. But who awares the intellect? Aware the intellect means, are you not aware that you are using your intellect? Are you not aware that you are thinking? Who is aware that you are thinking? So the answer to that is, a subtler part of the intellect is aware that you are thinking. But you're also aware that you're thinking. Right? At every point that you're aware, you're also aware that you're aware of that. So if you hit it back, you will reach infinity. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is the diagram which we did
just repeat, ma'am.
Okay, so you know you're thinking. You know that you are thinking. You know that you're thinking. So if you hit it back, you'll reach infinity. That's one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at it is the one we did last time. Who remembers what we did last time?
That diagram, the reflected.
Very good. So what was the diagram?
The consciousness. That
doesn't tell us.
Incident ray with falls on water and it reflected. That is the pure consciousness reflected back and become conditioned consciousness through
Very good. Right? So there's a trough of water. Imagine there's a trough of water. Now, when a ray of light hits that water, that ray of light becomes a reflected light. You've seen that, right? Some light comes on water and then it gets reflected somewhere else. You'll see some reflection. Correct? Now, when that ray of light hits the water, another ray is created. A reflected ray is created. Right? With me so far? You remember the diagram we did last time, right? That which hits the water is pure consciousness. The water represents thoughts. And the reflected ray represents conditioned consciousness. Okay? So here's the question for you to reflect on. Whenever you see that reflected water, whenever you see the reflected ray, what always has to be there?
The
The thought,
Incident ray.
the thought also,
Incident ray, correct.
and the thought, no, ma'am.
Wait. When you see a reflected ray, what has to be there?
The water.
Thought, that means.
Wait, not
Incoming,
thoughts, forget
incident
thoughts.
ray.
We're only talking about the water and the reflected ray. If you're seeing a reflected ray, there has to be.
Knower, the one who is
Wait, we're talking about the water and reflection. If
The
you see
ray.
a reflected ray, there
The ray
has
has-
to be.
The ray.
Pure
Incoming
consciousness plus thoughts.
incoming should be there.
Forget consciousness. I'm just talking about the water and the light.
Primary ray.
The incident ray, correct. Unless this ray hits water, there is no way there's going to be a reflected ray, correct? So if you see a reflected ray, that has to have been the incident ray, correct? Similarly, if you get the concept, I know, the conditioned consciousness, there has to be pure consciousness. Because unless there is pure consciousness, how do you get conditioned consciousness? You are conditioned, you know this. You know this much, that you are conditioned. This you know. Right? How do you know you are conditioned? Because conditioning.
Because there are thoughts.
because
There are thoughts in us.
very good. Because you're always aware of something. You do not know what is pure thought. You do not know what is pure awareness. Suppose I say, are you aware? Then you will say, aware of what? Then I'll say, are you aware of class? Then you will say, yes. I say, aware of this elephant here. Then you will say, no, I can't see any elephant here. There is no elephant here, okay? Sometimes people get quite confused. There is no elephant. You're not aware of the elephant. Then there is no elephant to be aware of. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here, right? All right, so whenever there is a reflected ray, there has to be an incident ray. Whenever there is conditioned consciousness, there has to be pure consciousness. Because how can you be conditioned unless it's all pure to begin with? Right? In other words, if you have an impure sample of gold, there has to be gold in it, right? Otherwise, how does it become impure? First, if there's no gold, you don't call it an impure sample of gold. Correct? With me so far? Too much.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. No, very simple. Well
Okay,
explained.
very good. It's actually quite a simple concept, but sometimes when you're hearing it for the first time, it becomes a bit complex. Right? So when pure consciousness hits thoughts, conditioned consciousness is created. Conditioned consciousness in this context is I know. You get the feeling I know. So how do you get the feeling I know? Two things have to be there. A thought has to be there, enlivened by pure consciousness. So wherever there has been a thought, pure consciousness has to be there. Correct? Since it is always there, it can make the statement that I am the knower of conditioned consciousness. Just like when there is an incident ray hitting a trough of water and you see a reflected ray, the reflected ray, the incident ray can say, I am the creator of that ray. Because had it not been there, the reflected ray cannot be there. So in that sense, he says, he who knows the body, not he who knows the body as in you and I knowing the body, but he who knows the body as an enlivening it. Because unless pure consciousness is there, this finger cannot move. This tongue cannot speak. These eyes cannot see. So unless pure consciousness is there, none of this is going to happen. Just like there cannot be light in a bulb unless
There is electricity.
unless there is electricity. So electricity can say, I am the creator of light. I am the creator of breeze. I am the one that washes your clothes. Because had I not been there, none of this would have happened. So in that sense, etad yo veti, he who knows this, he who knows the thought. Why does he know the thought? Because he's always been, wherever there's a thought, he has always been there. Tam prahuhu, him they call who is calling him? Tat vidaha. Tat vidaha means they who know the truth. Vidaha, know. Tat, that. They who know the truth call the knower of the kshetra the kshetrajna. Why is that so? Because wherever there has been conditioned consciousness, there has to be pure consciousness. And this is a very important thing which says tat vidaha. Tat vidaha means those who know that. Those who are the knowers of that, they call it so. In other words, this is a matter of authoritative declaration from the great masters. You are not expected to understand this because we can't. How can we understand? But what they're trying to drive our attention to is whatever you claim as the truth, those who know the truth call something else the truth. That is what we have to understand. That's where this is leading to. So, who is the Kshetrajna? It is the knowing principle. It is the knowing principle in the Kshetra. It is that by which you know the Kshetra, which is God or truth or reality, whatever you want to call it. What we currently know is
Conditioned consciousness.
Kshetra.
is the combination. Correct. What we currently know is the combination. We do not know how to segregate this. We do not know what is the body and what is the self. What we know is the combination. And he is now helping this segregation to take place. This body of Kaunteya is called Kshetra, field. He who knows this is called Kshetrajna, knower of the field, by those who know that. Those who know the truth call it so. Verse 3. Any questions on verse 2? Verse 3. Kshetrajnam chapi mam veti sarvashetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yat jnanam matam mama kshetrajnam chapi mam veti sarvashetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnayor jnanam yat jnanam matam mama. This must be one of the most important verses of the Bhagavad Gita, and I hope you will at least learn the first line of it. Because here is your definition of who or what is God according to God. Krishna is saying what he is. Okay, many people, oh, is it a form? Is it formless? Endless questions they have. Does Bhagavad Gita talk of form or does he talk of formless? Okay, last chapter he told us, worship the form. Means worship me. That's what he said last chapter. This chapter he says, Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Mam vidhi, know me. As what? Kshetragnyam. Sarva kshetreshu. Know me as that knowing principle in all the kshetras. He talks of his being there in every single kshetra. In other words, of his all-pervading nature. If you are all-pervading, you cannot have a form, because form implies that you're not somewhere. I am here because my form is here. I am not here because my form is not here. But something which is in all things has necessarily to be all-pervading. Anything all-pervading has necessarily to be formless. Because the moment you give a form, you say, I am not outside that form. Right? So, Kshetragnyam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. This is a statement of Sanatana Dharma, of eternal principles, of the Shruti, of that which will always be true for all times, for all people. It will never change. Even if humanity doesn't exist, this will not change.
Janki ma'am, can somebody just send us a snapshot of this on the class? I mean, I was going to take one, then I thought if it can just be put on the group. This
What are
particular
you
verse.
saying?
This particular verse. Yeah, just.
But why don't you have a book?
Ma'am, I gave both my all my books away. I have to order new ones.
Okay.
Whenever I talk to people, even how do we know what we know? I now need to get copies of everything again.
Okay, please do.
Okay.
Took your snapshot?
Just 1 second. Where's my camera? I could have actually saved it on Command Shift 3. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Kshetragnyam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Know me to be the Kshetragnya in all kshetras. Kshetra, Kshetragnya, your jnanam. This jnanam of what is the difference between Kshetra and Kshetragnya. Yat tat jnanam. That is jnanam. Because I asked him, what is knowledge? He said, this knowledge, which is the knowledge of the Kshetra and Kshetragnya, that is knowledge. Now, when will we get the knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetragnya?
When we realize the self.
Very good. So, what is knowledge? It is self-realization. It is enlightenment. Everything else is rubbish. If you get this knowledge, according to Krishna, okay, I'm only telling you what he's saying. He's saying Kshetra, Kshetragnya, your jnanam, the jnanam of Kshetra and Kshetragnya, yat tat jnanam, that is jnanam, that is knowledge. That is knowledge means everything else is ignorance. Now, how do you even understand these things? How do you wrap your head around it? Suppose your child has to go to school or college and you say, what knowledge shall I get? Will you say, get enlightenment? How do you wrap your head around this statement? Like, I don't know what to say about this verse, because should we get it, we've got everything, and should we not get it, we've got nothing. How do you understand this concept that knowledge means enlightenment? Everything else doesn't count. I have my degree from IIT, means nothing. I have the Nobel Prize for physics, means nothing. If you're not enlightened, means nothing, according to Krishna. If you trust him, then this is what he's saying. How do you understand it? The only way to sort of understand it is to take an example which we do understand. Okay, the most famous Vedantic example of the rope and the snake. There is a rope lying on the ground. You misunderstand it to be the snake. Some people see it as a snake, some people see it as a twig, some people see it as a crack in the ground, whatever. Each one has his own story of what it is. But here is this person who's seeing the snake where there is a rope. And then he studies about the snake that he's seeing. And he gives it a name. He says, this snake is the Russell's viper. Or maybe if it's Deep Raj, then he says, this is Deep Raj's viper. Okay, he gives it a name. Then he says, oh, from this distance, it appears to be so long. It appears to be black. And he writes a thesis on it. The one who sees the rope will say that when you know that snake is a rope, you have all knowledge. All your other theses don't count for anything. Isn't it? That's what he's saying. If you know the reality, that knowledge counts. Everything else, you can create any amount of information around a false thing, right? But that's not knowledge. He who understands the difference between the Kshetra and Kshetragni, something that you can only do at realization. Why can you only do it at realization? Because right now we see the combination. When you see a tiger, what do you see? You see the combination. When you see a mosquito, what do you see? You're seeing the combination. When you see yourself in the mirror, what do you see? You see a combination. You simply cannot segregate this. What is the I and what is the not I? What is the Kshetra? What is the Kshetragni? But realization or enlightenment means you can do this segregation. And that alone is knowledge. Every other information you collect is information about that snake. Kshetragnyam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu. I am that Kshetragnya and all the Kshetras. Wherever you see, whatever you see, it is me you're seeing, but with some filters. Whenever you see that snake, what you saw was the rope, but with some delusion between. Now, what part of it was delusion and what part of it was that rope is very difficult to tell. Because when you say my snake is so long, you're right, because the rope is that long. If you say my snake is dark and black, and you're right, because the rope is dark and black. And if you say my snake is all curled and it's sitting in the corner in the garden there, you're right, because the rope is curled. And it is sitting in the garden there. So you're saying right things, though you're saying them all incorrect. This combination is what is our problem in life. We are not able to segregate what is the truth and what is the not truth. What is the self and what is Maya. And the amazing thing is we talk of the Maya with the right attributes. If you look at the world, won't you say, oh, this world is all pervading, it's everywhere. It has no beginning, it has no end. Correct? But you're talking about the self. You feel you're so smart and so intelligent, right? Every one of us feels that we know it all. Correct? Because the self knows it all. But we are giving the qualities of the self to the matter. And that's where we make a mistake. If I ask you, are you a loving soul? Everybody will say, yes, I am very loving. These other people are not loving, but I am a very loving person. Why do we say that? Because the self sees its identity with everything. Everything we think about ourselves. You look at your mirror and you say, oh, I'm so good looking. Why do we feel, when you look at yourself in the mirror, what attracts you there? If you look at a photograph of 20 people, Where does your I go first? Why do you consider yourself so important? Because the self is important. The attributes of the self are unknowingly given to matter. So he says, when you're able to segregate it, when you understand what is of the self and what is of matter, you're an enlightened being. And that is knowledge.
Madam, one question. When you see the photograph 20 people, your eyes go right looking for you because the self in the me is getting projected. But there is a self in the other 19 also. So why is it not going to the other 19?
You're not seeing it. Why is it not going in? You're not saying. You're thinking this is the self. That is, wherever you see the self, you will feel attracted. For instance, suppose it's a class of 20 people. Okay? Your eye will go to your son.
Agreed, but because there is self in it, right?
No, because you have associated that with the self.
The emotional part. Okay.
Yeah, you have associated the self.
Thank you, madam.
So beautiful verse, no? Kshetragnim chapimam buddhi sarva kshetreshu bharat. O Bharata, know me as the Kshetragnya, as the knowing principle in every Kshetra. That means wherever you look, whatever you see, what you are seeing is the Lord, what you're seeing is God, what you're seeing is the Self. Whatever you hear, it is the Self. What you feel, what you touch, what emotions, everything is the Self. Somebody says, oh, you're such a horrible person. You recognize it is the Self. Somebody says, you're such a wonderful person. You recognize it as the self. Everywhere, everything is him. And him alone. Because everything that is not him is simple delusion. Just as every time you look at that snake, it's the rope alone. The snake is just a delusion. There is no snake. The snake is the rope. There is nothing, there is no snake there. How do we even understand this? We can't. We have to reach there. We cannot understand it from here. Like suppose a boy is seeing the snake where there is a rope. You can't tell him, see the rope. He can't do that. He will always see the combination. But once he sees the rope, now he can't see the snake again. When he sees the snake, he sees a combination. But when he sees the rope, he sees only the rope. So this knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetragnya is knowledge. O Bharata. You know, Krishna calls Arjuna many names. One of them is Bharata. And it's also very interesting why he chooses a particular name in a particular verse. Jaya, many more of us are fear about illusion. Yes. Naturally, if you see a snake, you'll be frightened. What else will happen? The problem is, there is no snake, and still you're frightened. But as long as you see the snake, that is normal. As long as you see an enemy, there will be hatred. As long as you see another person, there will be competition. So, why does he, okay, so coming back to Bharata, why does he use the name Bharata when he's talking about this? This is all interesting. This is, of course, something that you can think of yourself. But just think about it a little bit. Why Bharata here? The word Bharata can be etymologically derived from Bha and Rati. Bha means light. Rati means Rata. Rata means to revel. So Bharata means someone reveling in the light of consciousness. someone whose happiness lies in the knowledge of the self. And that is why our country was called Bharatiya. We are called Bharatiya. Our country is called Bharat because we are supposed to be inheritors of that. That we all revel in the light of consciousness, not revel in Netflix and revel in Starbucks, but revel in the light of consciousness. And the more and more of that truth we understand, the more and more do we become happy. That is why Isavasya Upanishad says, Tatra ka moha ka shokaha yatra ekatvam anupashyata. Where is their moha? Where is their delusion? Where is their shoka? What shoka? What shoka? For him, ekatvam anupashyata, who is able to see the oneness. What a fantastic line, no? Every line of these scriptures is enough to make your hair stand on end.
Please, could you just repeat that, Janki ji? This line from the Upanishads.
Tatra ka, Isavasya Upanishad. Tatra ko moha ko shokaha. Ko because it is Sandhiru. Ekatvam anupashyata. Where you see the oneness. Where can there be delusion? Where can there be sorrow? For one who sees the oneness. What a beautiful line. They're having, in Bangalore, they're having a summit, a yoga summit on mental health. Mental health has become a big topic nowadays. So there's a yoga summit. And Vidushi has organized whatever to be invited over. I don't know what she didn't organize the summit, but they got in touch with her and requested her, since she knows me, whether I would come and address that summit. So yeah, sure, I'll address. But it's so simple, right? Any of y'all want to come? If you're in Bangalore and you want to come for the summit, please do. But the concept is so simple. What is the difficulty? Mental health is so, it's so simple. Isavasya Upanishad has said it thousands of years ago. Tatra ko moha ka shokaha yatra ekatvam anupashyata. Where is there moha, delusion? Where is there shokaha, sorrow? When you can see ekatvam. How can it be possible? In other words, you're seeing the rope, why will you be frightened of the snake? If you're experiencing fear, it's only because you're not seeing the rope. What is mental health? Is it so tough after all? Neither the physical nor mental is so tough after all. Excuse me. Just see the oneness. See the Kshetrajna instead of all the time concentrating on the Kshetra. But this is not easy for us to do because our eyes, our nose, our ears, our tongue, our skin, it all tells us about the Kshetra. What is there to tell us about the Kshetrajna? So, therefore, moral of the story is, what is there to tell us about the Kshetrajna?
Vedanta.
Okay. What is there to tell us about the Kshetrajna? Whole day, right? 24 hours, Kshetra is being hammered onto us. What is there to tell us about Kshetrajna?
You've forgotten that.
Reality of who am I?
Yes, who is going to tell you that? Very good, Raj. Correct.
Those who have already realized it.
No, they don't need to worry about it. We need to worry about it. So what will tell us? They have automatically got it. They know it now. He's seen the rope up. Now what is he going to do? There's nothing for him to do. But we who have not seen the rope, we are constantly seeing the snake. Something has to tell us about it. 24 hours a day, you're seeing that snake.
Knowledge of scripture, or listening to that, understanding that.
No. See, Deep Raj has written it nicely for you in the chat. Correct. Moral of the story is your morning studies. Because it's the only thing in your day which will tell you about the truth. Everything else is telling you about lies. We're living in a world of lies. What is the primary lie? That there is a world. That's the primary lie. And we live in that world. And we say, Satyam Vada, speak the truth. How can you speak the truth? You're living in a world of lies. Oh, he's telling lies. Okay, he's telling lies, but are you telling the truth? If you're telling the truth, you will say, there is only Kshetratnya here. There is nothing else. But that's not what we see. And hence, we must give ourselves every single day an opportunity to remember, to reflect, to digest this knowledge. Otherwise, it is just so simple, right? I mean, how difficult is it for anyone in this class to know spirit plus matter is equal to individual? We all know this. But our life will continue the same. And hence you do it and do it until it occurs to us what it really means. Okay, Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. Oh, Bharata means you should be reveling in that truth, in the reality. What else is there to revel in? In fact, whatever you do revel in, you think that is the reality. Because the reality is the only thing to revel in. There is nothing else to revel in. So, O Bharata, O Bharatiya, you are meant to revel in that higher consciousness, not in what we are reveling right now. True knowledge is the capacity to divide the truth from the lies, divide the reality from the non-reality, divide out the Kshetra from the Kshetrajna. This is the division we need to make. This is knowledge. Matam mama. Now here's where we come into another problem. He just gave us absolute Shruti. Okay, knowledge is given in two ways. One way is you tell eternal principles. Okay, that's called Shruti. Shruti means that which is true for all people at all times. The other way of giving knowledge is called Matam. Matam means the opinion of the prophet given for some people at some time. It may not always be applicable. Religions are usually matams. Any religion. Do this ritual, this is the story, whatever they tell you to do. Or do this, don't do this. All of these are matams. They're called smritis. Like Yagnavalka Smriti or Manu Smriti. They're all smritis. They are the opinions of the prophets based on the Shruti, of course. You could understand it as the knowledge of MBBS is the Shruti. But the prescription the doctor gives you is the Smriti. If you follow that prescription, you will get well. But you cannot carry that prescription and give it to somebody else. Because that prescription is for you. It is the opinion of the prophet for those set of people. So when you study scriptures, any scriptures from any religion, we need to know which part of it was Shruti and which part of it is Smriti. Suppose they say you should chant Hanuman Chalisa. Then what is this?
It's a Smriti.
Smriti.
Smriti. Suppose we say you should go to church every Sunday. What is this?
Smriti.
Suppose we say Kshetrajnam chapimam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. This is
Smriti.
Shruti. It's an eternally true principle. So, We have to, in every text, in every scripture, find out what is eternal and what is the prescription that the prophet has given. These prescriptions are deeply respected because they're useful for us. It's not that they're not respected, but they're not useful for all people at all times. Right? So now this is an interesting verse because first line is Shruti, second line is Smriti. How do you know it's Smriti?
He says Matam Mama.
He says Matam Mama. The Bhagavad Gita is a very, very, what should I say, charitable book. That's why it's called Mother Gita. It's very charitable. When he tells you an eternal principle, I mean, we assume the book is eternal principles. But when he gives you his opinion, which is useful for us at that time, then he clearly states, this is my matam, this is my opinion. So he says, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Yo Jnanam, Yat Tat Jnanam, that Jnanam is really knowledge. Now, this is a matam. This is an opinion. Because for intellectuals, they will have to learn the discrimination. That is what they have to build up. But this may not be of interest to a karma yogi. He will say, yes, ab chodo, kya kaam karna hai, mujhe bata. He thinks like that. So this may not be applicable for him. But for everybody, Kshetrajna stays the same. This method of intellectual analysis, of dissecting, this is an intellectual thing, of appeal to intellectuals. So, different paths. The paths are all different, but the goal is all the same. Ekam satyam vipra bahuda vadanti. Ekam satyam, one truth. Vipraha, the wise one. Bahuda vadanti, call it by many names. So the second line gives you sadhana for an intellectual. The first one gives the goal. So the first one is common to all. Second line is a sadhana for intellectual.
Janki ji, so as we evolve on the path, keeping the same snake and rope parallel in the mind, so there will come a point where we're still seeing the snake, but we know how to deal with it because of evolution on the path, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Deep Raj, why does he give this advice to Arjuna? Because Arjuna asked the question. He's saying, what is knowledge? So I told him, what is knowledge? It's not like Arjuna is going to follow any of this, but you ask a question, get the answer. Okay. Right. Shaila, VB, are you new? I feel sorry for people who came now. Somebody said something?
Million.
Sorry?
Million. Janki ji, why Krishna?
I can't hear you very well.
Yeah, we can't hear, only mumbling we can hear.
Janki ji, why Krishna has said it is my matam? What was the need? He simply say the first line itself. First line he can say and say, finish, better finish. Why say is my matam?
But Arjuna asked the question. He's saying, what is knowledge? Remember, that was his question. So he's asked the question, so he answered the question. What is knowledge? That is it's a big thing. Nowadays, they've got a whole science for it. What is knowledge? What is consciousness? Big thing. He asked the question. He said, okay. This is...
Madam, one thing I didn't understand. You said Shruti, you said Smriti. Matam is a combination or it is only Smriti?
Only Smriti. Matam means opinion. Word means opinion. Okay, so I guess we want to start the next verse.
Janki, just a question.
Yes.
Can a matam also be an eternal truth?
No, how can it be?
So in this particular verse, the matam he's giving is an eternal truth, right?
Line 1 is eternal. Line 2 is Smriti.
Can we just revisit line quickly because I'm very confused. He says the knowledge of Kshetra and Kshetrajna, that is considered by me to be knowledge.
Now, what is Kshetra? Oh, sorry, where is the O Bharata, also know me as the Kshetrajna and all Kshetras. This is eternal principle. I am the Kshetra and all Kshetras. The knowledge of Kshetrajna and Kshetra, that is considered by me to be knowledge. That is a mata. Because, what? Suppose as a Christian. Now you won't tell the Christian learn Kshetra and Kshetrajna. And the Christian will study Father, Son and Holy Ghost. The concept may be the same. But you can't say the knowledge of Kshetrajna and Kshetra is knowledge. Now what about those who know Muhammad and Allah or Christ and Father in heaven? That's mata. This is for us. Us meaning those who are studying Vedanta or to put it more specifically, for intellectuals. But you can't say this is universally true. The karmi will not agree to this, nor will the bhakta agree to this, and nor do they need to.
They may not agree. Does that change the fact that it is a truth and it is eternal?
Yes, that is correct. But the thing is, they may not agree in the sense it is not necessary for them. Everybody doesn't have to do this. It's not universally true. And you see, he's saying matam. So he claims it's not universally true. So you have to start from there. He is saying it is not universally true. Now you figure it out. Because he's clearly said it.
So what is not universally true is sensitive to time and is time, space, and is subject to change.
Correct.
By that definition, when he said this, and now when we are sitting here, what could have changed?
Nothing has changed about that. But who it is applicable to? If a bhakta was reading the Bhagavad Gita, it is not really applicable to him. He doesn't want to do all this discrimination.
So one can argue that the eternal truths are also not universally accepted by people. They may be applicable, but they're not accepted by people. Here it seems that non-acceptance of a truth doesn't make it eternal.
Universal truths are universal truths. Okay, look at it as science. The laws of physics are universally true. However, the Indians use pressure cookers and Americans don't use pressure cookers. So here we will have maybe, I don't know, something about how to use it, some education on how to use it or how to clean it or something. But that course on how to use it or how to clean it will not be applicable in the US because they're not using it.
Antija, parallel may be not a great example, but when somebody said the earth is round and not flat, he didn't say it was my opinion. He said it was round when most of them said it was flat, and then he went on to prove it.
So correct. So that is the sample dharma. I don't know where people's agreement comes into it. It's not about agreement. It's about whether you're going to use that thing. When the Prophet tells in Mohammedism, Muhammad says, marry 4 times. Now this marry 4 times, he said under some conditions, right? So it becomes matan. Not applicable to all people at all times. Everybody must have 4 spouses. Anyway, think about it. And if you have a further question, we'll deal with it next time.
Okay, thank you.
Hariam.
Hari Om, Janki ji.
Madam.